Good morning, everyone. My name is Kayla. I'm a primate keeper here at the Houston Zoo. And right now we're outside with our red-tailed monkey group. They're also called the Schmidt red-tailed monkeys. Outside we have Peter right here, who is 3 years old. He'll be 4 on April 10th. And then we have Kibali, who is dad right there. He is 10 years old. And then we have mom, who's up top. That is Njeri, and she is 14 years old. So right now I also have Derek out here helping me out feeding and training with Kibali. And so we're just feeding them some bananas right now, which is one of their favorite snacks. So right now Derek is asking for Kibali for hand. So they do know some different behaviors, such as presenting their hands. Peter, he's starting to learn feet. They will also do stand and sit. And that's just a really good way for keepers to kind of get an eye on their full body to make sure that they don't have any injuries, but then it's also to make sure that their body condition is doing well. And it also really helps us to build a relationship with them as well for medical purposes. If they were to ever get sick or injured, we want to make sure that we have that relationship with them to be able to give them the proper treatment that they need. So these guys are more arboreal than terrestrial, but as of right now, Kibali is kind of showing us a little bit differently. And what those two words mean is that arboreal means they usually like to spend time up in the trees, which Njeri and Peter are showing us really good examples of. Terrestrial means that the animals like to typically stay on the ground, but for these guys, they will be up high. What's really awesome with them is that they are actually pretty social as monkeys, so you will see them sometimes in the wild. They will socialize with other primate species, and such as grooming, and then also just kind of keeping an eye out for predators as a group. So I have Peter back over here with me. He's a pretty bouncy guy, and how he got his name actually was because he was born on around Easter, so we always think of rabbits. So his full name is actually Peter Rabbit, and if you see him later on, he is a pretty bouncy guy. So he'll be bouncing around, especially on the ground. It's really cute to see. So he is a lot like a rabbit. So that's how he kind of got his name. And these guys are specifically herbivores, so that means they usually eat fruits and vegetables, but on occasion they will be considered an omnivore, so they'll eat other things such as bugs, so worms and crickets. And then they do like browse material as well, such as banana leaves and ginger, all sorts of really yummy things. So they do get a different type of fruit and a different type of vegetable every day, and that's to give them a nice variety. But then they're also going to be browsing around a little bit. So we do have different forage piles out for them, and we do all sorts of different types of enrichment as well. So how they also got their name is they are notable for their long red tails. So Kibali here has a pretty long tail. I'm going to see if I can get him to come up a little bit. And you can see how long it is. And so that tail is specifically for balance. So as they're going to be running and jumping through trees, they're going to use their tail to kind of help keep that balance running on different things. So it is not a prehensile tail, which means they can't really use it for anything else other than just for balance. So as far as age and groupings goes, they're going to be considered kind of a family group. So you're going to have one male with multiple females. That can be anywhere between 6 to even 25 in a group. And whenever a male, so Peter here, even though he is a male, eventually as he gets older, we might start seeing some kind of displacement from dad, and that he will start to kind of push him out of the group. And that is a normal function that you will see with them. And then eventually males will either go off to create their own bachelor group, kind of like with gorillas, or they will eventually find and create their own family group. So luckily these guys are pretty stable in their numbers, but there are other animals that live within the same general region, such as the Central Africa region, where there's also chimps and gorillas. And so anything that you do to help with gorillas and chimps, such as recycling your cell phones, it does help to save them in the wild. And then also recycling paper and all sorts of things, that really helps with their deforestation as well. Does anyone have any questions at all? So for those of you who might be joining us right now, outside we are with our red tail group. They are here within the Wortham World of Primates. And outside right now we do have a family group, which is Kibali, who is 10 years old. We have Peter, who will be turning 4 years old on April 10th. And then we have Njeri, who is 14 years old. And speaking of Peter's birthday, we do have a big birthday party that is coming up for him next month. So if y'all wanted to come join us with that, you can see a pretty big birthday bash for him. We do call him Little Man, and so that is going to be the theme. So we would love for you to come out and join us in that celebration. As of right now, I am feeding them some bananas, which is one of their favorite snacks. They are vegetarian, so they do eat different types of fruits and vegetables. But on occasion, they'll enjoy an occasional worm or a cricket. So one of my favorite things about working with them is that they all have very different personalities. So Peter here, he is very curious and very talkative with keepers. So every morning whenever we come in to check on them, he will greet us with a nice little chirp. And then with Kibali, it's really fun to see how his and Peter's relationship has been developing. So we're starting to see a lot more play that takes between the two of them. And then another thing about them is that they are a little bit more on the cautious side. So whenever you are able to kind of build that trust with them, it's highly rewarding to be able to have them do different behaviors, such as Njeri, we're able to get her to present her chest. At one point, when Peter was first born, he actually, we ended up having to hand rear him. And the reason why that was is Njeri, she was able to present her chest to us, and we started noticing that she wasn't producing enough milk for Peter, and he was starting to show some signs of that. So we then had to intervene, and we took care of him round the clock with bottle feeding him, and then also socializing with him. All the while, we were able to do that alongside of his mom, Njeri. And so every day we would give them time to socialize with each other, for her to groom him. And so once when Peter was fully weaned off the bottles, and we felt like he was strong enough to be able to kind of be on his own, we then kind of started to do a little introduction back with his mom. And then we started seeing really positive signs. She was very interested in him. And so we decided to go ahead and put them together. And the moment that we opened the door, she immediately scooped him up into his arms. He clung onto her like a normal monkey. And they've pretty much been inseparable and normal, like a really great family ever since. She has really great motherly instincts. Just unfortunately, she wasn't able to produce that milk, but that is why we do those husbandry behaviors with them, is for us to be able to kind of monitor that. So do we ever go inside with them? No, we do not. With pretty much all of our primate monkeys, our great apes, monkeys, lemurs, we do not go in there with them. So they are still a wild animal, and they can be unpredictable. So for their safety and for ours, we don't go in there with them. We're always going to have this barrier between us and them. Even with Kibali, even though he and I have a decent enough relationship, with this mesh, it does kind of sway a little bit. So you see that I'm kind of standing a little bit further back. I'm kind of keeping my eye on him just to make sure that he's not going to come over here and display and accidentally hit me. So for their safety and for ours, we don't go in there with them. We will have them present like different behaviors to us through the mesh, so we can take a look at their hand. They'll put their hands within our hands. Same thing with feet. With Peter, we did go with him, but that was just for hand rearing purposes. But typically we want to have them as wild and normally functioning as much as possible. And that's what's been really great with Peter, is that even though I'm standing here and he was hand reared, he doesn't really care about me right now. He's foraging right now, finding some bugs and trying to eat them right now. He'll be playing around with Dad a little bit. So it's a really successful story that we're very proud of. So who's my favorite is what was asked. It would have to be Peter. I think he's captured all of our hearts. What's been really great with him, and fortunately enough for me, is I am his primary trainer. So he and I have just developed a really great relationship. So he, like I said, every morning he will greet us with a nice little chirp. He's very playful, though I would say there's kind of a rivalry between him and his half-brother. So we do have a second set of red tails. We have Bongo, Nagano, and Jack. So Jack is Peter's half-brother, so Kibali was Jack's dad. Nagano is Jack's mom, and Bongo is Jack's grandmother. So we do have 3 generations there. And so some keepers would argue that Jack is their favorite, so it's kind of a rivalry between the 2 brothers. And then Catherine asks, what are their personalities like? So with Kibali here, he is a really great dominant male in that he's very territorial. He will be on alert for any danger. So if anything new kind of happens, he is the first one to be alert and notifying pretty much everybody else in the building that, hey, there's something new here, we don't like it. And it kind of sets everybody else off. But he's also starting to really show his fun personality in that he is starting to play more with Peter. So that's been really great to see their bond growing. Njeri, what's really interesting with her is she seems very meek and shy, but she does have a spicy side in that whenever, the reason why we have 2 different groups is because there was some rivalries that was going on between Njeri and the other 2 females. And so for their safety and then also just for the overall welfare, we have them separate in management groups. And so then with Bongo, she is like a grandma. She is very protective of her grandson, Jack. So anytime that keepers kind of show Jack any attention that she's not getting, she will interject, which is really funny and just really sweet to see how caring she is of her grandson. And then Nagano, she's pretty laid back. There will be times where if any type of scuffle was to happen, she's going to be out of it. She's a kind of wants to do her own thing and stay as far away as possible. And then Jack, he is just a very playful guy. He's going to be bouncing around with everybody, hanging on mom's tail, grandma's tail. It's really fun to see his personality. So something unique about them is, earlier I was saying that usually with these guys, it's very unique to see that they will interact with other primate species, such as blue monkeys. So they can be seen in the wild, hanging out with other groups, even grooming with each other. And it's kind of a really unique bond that they've kind of created with the other groups, and that they will kind of look out for each other. So kind of more eyes to kind of look out for different predators. Other than that, they like to stay in their own social groups. And so they do have family groups, but what's really great is with those large family groups is other females will help to take care and raise all the offspring. And then another unique thing about them is their long tails. So Kibali here has a very long tail that Derek's showing right now. So he has probably one of the longest tails that we've seen. Jack is starting to get there in the length of the tail, but we're not sure if he's going to be quite as long as Kibali. And that is used for balance. As you can see, his tail's kind of sticking up a little bit. As he's going to be walking around, it's to help him walk that straight line. So their tails are going to be about 30 to 35 inches long. I don't think we've had an actual measurement of his tail. I know we had talked about doing it, but we haven't been able to get an exact measurement of it. So I apologize. We are very curious, though, to kind of get a comparison of all their tails.
Would he be afraid of me if I went in like this other trainer?
So we just had a guest ask if you said the lemurs or the monkeys? The monkeys. So yeah, because they recognize us as keepers and they kind of recognize the uniform, and because we have that relationship with them, they would kind of come up and greet us to see what's going on. If it was other people, they can do what's called an alarm call. And so that's going to be alerting to everybody, like, hey, you're a threat to me. And they're going to let everybody else know, like, hey, there's something that's intruding on us that we're not used to. And so they would all kind of run away, kind of like what they're doing right now. Plus, they also know that we don't have any more snacks for them. So like a normal primate, they're not going to be very people-oriented, which is really great because they are still a wild animal. So they don't really want to be over here with us unless we have good treats for them. Other than that, they want to go off and do their own thing. And so we do respect them to be able to do that, which is really great why we have this space. They have areas that they can go and be out of sight if they want to. But then they can also be up front if they choose to do that as well. So the other group, it was asked, where's the other group while these guys are outside? So we do rotations on a daily basis. So we have an inside holding area for them. So it's a huge loop for them. They have a lot of different bedrooms with different props and a lot of different enrichment that we have for them. So they will be they have the full range of that during the day. And throughout the day, we're going to give them lots of different enrichment. We used to do half days with them where we would have one group out in the morning, other group out in the afternoon. But sometimes the other group might be a little bit stubborn. And so then it would kind of throw off the schedule and not give ample amount of time for the other group. So we decided to do all day management. So every day we'll have either one group outside and the other group inside. And then the next day we'll have the opposite group. And some days we have a hard time either getting them out or coming in. So we feel like we do a pretty good job of keeping them enriched both outside and inside. So thanks for tuning in today, and be sure to join us for Peter's birthday, and we'll see you next Facebook Live in 2 weeks.